Hi everyone, this is Eric from Traders Helping Traders with this week's Tricks of the Trade. Well, this week we're going to talk about a very basic support and resistance formation. It's one that's often overlooked, but it is so precise and so effective that you can actually trade it without anything else on your chart. So what is this mysterious trading formation? Well, it's the concept of a test and a retest. Let's take a look at this chart right here. And I should point out that this can be done on any chart and in any time frame. This is a pattern that repeats itself over and over again. So what does a test and a retest look like? Well, let's make this a little bit bigger so it's a little easier to see. A test and a retest occurs when a market breaks a significant area of support and resistance. And like I said, you can even do this without anything on your chart. Let's take that off. Take the moving average off. There we go. So here we have a totally blank chart. Let's start here at this area of support and resistance. Now, the concept of a test and retest occurs best when the breakout is fresh. As the market continues in the direction of the breakout, it starts to slow down a little bit and become a little less predictable. But when you get an early breakout, then that's usually a very good opportunity. So let's start with this formation right here. The market came off of some lows, came up, and actually took out these little areas of resistance right here. All right, we had some resistance right here. It broke through, that's the test, and it came back to retest, after which it held and continued higher from here. So your first push through the area of resistance or support, as the case may be, is your test. And after that, you're going to be on the lookout for a retest. Now, this also reinforces a characteristic of support and resistance that says old resistance becomes new support. So in other words, once it's broken through, it should now act as support. Now you might be asking yourself, why does that happen? Well, quite simply, what's happening is we have sellers selling the market right here. We know there's sellers there because that's as high as the market could get. So we have people selling the market here. We have more sellers selling the market here. Well, all of a sudden, the sellers get overrun by the buyers and prices go higher. Some of the buyers take profit here. Perhaps some more of the sellers hop on board. No doubt some of them saw a trend line opportunity to sell. Whatever the reason, the buyers either took profit, stopped buying, or the sellers overran them, and then prices started to drift lower. Well, now the market is going to look for fresh buyers where the breakout occurred. If there are new buyers there, then prices will rally. So in this instance, prices rallied. Notice we had our red-green bar combination, which is our sign of support, and shortly thereafter, prices took higher. All right, so then we broke this area of resistance on this rally. Same thing happens. The sellers get overrun, prices go higher. We also overran the sellers at this level, if there were still some holding on. Prices went higher, came back down, and now we're looking at our retest again. And as before, we get several instances of support being our red-green bar combination until finally the market continues higher. Now notice what happens here when we broke this area of resistance. Prices went higher. That's our test. They came back. They drifted a little bit lower. Notice how close we were to our breakout levels on the retest on the previous two breakouts. If prices start to drift a little bit too low, you should be a little bit suspicious, because remember what we're looking for. We're looking for renewed buying where the buyers got on board before, right? There were buyers on board here as we overwhelmed the sellers. But now all of a sudden, the sellers have really forced the buyers lower, and there's not very much buying occurring in this region right here. In fact, the opposite begins to happen. As the buyers try to push the market higher, well, look at where the sellers have started to overrun the buyers, right at this previous level where the sellers were at before. So that tells us that this breakout here did not have a whole lot of buying support to it. Yes, the buyers overran the sellers, but the sellers quickly got back on board and pushed the buyers down. So they pushed them down here, they pushed them down here, and of course prices continued lower from there. But more than that, we also had a breakout below this area of support. Now here, this one would have been a little trickier to catch because it did drift a little bit higher than anticipated. Remember, usually we like to see something occur near the breakout level, but it was only a 1-bar breakout. Even so, you got a very clear sell signal with our green-red bar combination, which is resistance. More importantly, however, we did not exceed the previous highs. So that means that we still have a downtrend intact. Then the sellers were, or the buyers were overrun right here again. So that's our test. Now we're on the lookout for a retest. So we get our green-red bar combination here, no follow through. Prices drift somewhat again. We get our green-red bar combination here, and at least we get a little bit of follow through on it. Now we should be alerted when the market is unable to continue lower and actually starts to swing higher. That tells us that the trend, or in this case the downtrend, is probably in jeopardy. And then the whole cycle begins all over again, where we break this area of resistance, comes back down. This is our test. Here's our retest, a little push higher. And notice it struggles a little bit, but look at where we find support again, right back at this area of old resistance. And this will happen time and again. Like I said, you can do this with any chart. Let's take a look at what's been going on more recently. Here we had an obvious level of support. Prices rallied, came down. Here's our test on the breakout. And here was our retest. And unfortunately, that one didn't have very much follow through, but we did get subsequent retests up here. Now, it does appear that with hogs, sometimes we're getting a little bit of overrun before the sellers actually get back on board. But get on board they did as they push prices lower. So even if you didn't get that first one, you should have been able to catch this one, as we had the breakout below support. And look at this, very nice tight retest. And of course prices fell off from here. So you don't even need to take the sloppy ones if you don't want. You can just concentrate on the best tests and retests. You can see there's several opportunities on this chart alone, never mind all the other markets that are out there, as well as the day trading markets. Like I said, this happens in all markets and in all time frames. So there you have it, the concept of a test and retest. Support becoming resistance and resistance becoming support. It's one of the founding principles of support and resistance trading, and it is so simple that anyone can do it, and you can do it without any indicators or anything else on your chart. And that's this week's Tricks of the Trade.